Hello, happy glaze day. Okay, so here are my two bobbleheads. Here's Fritz and my eagle. Beautiful. I'm gonna glaze the eagle right now, and then I'll do Fritz later. So what I'm gonna do is I want to glaze my bobblehead. I want to glaze them separately, so I want them to live separated. Ooh, put Fritz out of the way. So what you're gonna do, you're gonna start with your lightest color. So whites, yellows, light blues, lightest color first. Trust me. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pick out which glaze I want. So my lightest color will be white because his whole head is gonna be white, and so will his eyes. So here's my glaze. I have the glaze set out on the front table. What you're going to do, you're going to triple check that before you do anything else, you're going to triple check that your lid is on really well. While holding the top of the lid, you're going to shake it, and you're going to shake it for like a minute. The reason why is because all like the glaze particle stuff sits at the bottom when it's been sitting for a while, which it has been. So I want to make sure it's shaken up really, really well before I start to use it. Okay, so now, what I'm going to do, glaze is just like paint, but we put it in the kiln again. So before we fire it, it's kind of chalky. It smells bad, kind of like eggs. You'll be all right. Okay, so I'm gonna paint the head. If you're painting a big area, pick a big brush. If you're painting a little area, pick a little brush. You're allowed to use more than one brush. These should be painted nicely. There shouldn't be like mixed glaze everywhere. So I'm gonna do the head, which is kind of hard to see because I picked white, so I might switch to the yellow in a minute. I'm going to just paint it on like normal, making sure to only paint the spots white that I want to be white. Your bobblehead has to be glazed. You're like, that's already white. Why would you glaze it? Glaze is shiny after it comes out of the kiln, so even if I'm painting something white, even though our clay is white, I'm gonna want to make sure to paint it with white glaze so that my whole bobblehead has like the same finish to it. The other thing with glaze, you have to do 3 even coats over the whole entire thing. So anywhere you paint has to have 3 coats. If you don't, then the glaze will be uneven and splotchy. It won't be like as shiny. You're not going to want, it's just going to look way better. 3 even coats everywhere. So let's pretend like I have his whole head painted. When the glaze is wet, if you can see, I don't know, that when the glaze is wet, it's shiny, and then when it's dry, it's like matte and chalky looking. When it gets to the when it gets matte, you can go ahead and put a second coat over it. Do all 3 coats of one color before you switch to a new color. When you switch to a new color, you're going to take your glaze bottle back to the front table and grab a new color. So you're not going to have 15 glazes sitting on your table. You're going to have one color at a time. And I want you guys to do this slowly so that you paint very accurately. I want you to make sure all of your details are painted correctly. I don't want you to have a hot mess. We worked hard on these, so I want them to be painted nicely. The one thing I want you to remember, I don't care if you start on your head or your body, start with the lightest color, move to darker. So I'm going to do white first, then I'm going to do yellow, and then I'm going to do brown, and then I'm going to do black. That's how, from lightness to darkness. That way, that if I mess up my white anywhere, my next darker color will cover it up. If I mess up the yellow anywhere, my brown will cover it up, so on and so on. Once I've done 3 even coats, what I want to make sure that I don't do, you can paint this part of your bobblehead, because what we're going to do is we're going to put them in the kiln separately like this, so we'll fire them separately. So paint this part. There cannot be any glaze on this bottom part. Big warning signs. If you put glaze on this bottom part, it will get stuck to the kiln shelf and I will never be able to get it off. The only way I'll be able to get it off is with a hammer, and I'll have to bust it off, which means you'll get a bad grade because you won't have a bobblehead. Same thing with the head. Most of your heads are even on the bottom. Mine's kind of jagged, so it's hard to tell, but there shouldn't be any glaze on the bottom of the head. Here's Fritz's head. There shouldn't be any glaze on anything that's going to touch the kiln shelf. If you're having a hard time deciding, put it down and look what's touching. There should be no glaze there. If for some reason you do get glaze on it, all we're going to do is we're going to take a wet sponge and we're going to wipe it off. So it's not the end of the world, but there shouldn't be any glaze on the bottom of it. Yeah, it's just like normal paint. So like between colors, you're going to make sure your brush is washed off really good. Never take like a dirty brush and stick it into a new color, because the glaze is this color because of the chemical, so it has some chemical reaction in it. So if I'm mixing this glaze with this glaze, it might not look weird on my bobblehead right now, but the chemical reaction could turn it something crazy. We also don't want to like ruin a whole bottle of glaze because you didn't use a clean brush. If you have questions or you need anything, please let me know. Great. Okay, get glazing.